Before you complain today, you need to watch this. I want to ask you a question. What if the things that you're complaining about today are actually evidence of the goodness in your life? Think about that for a second. This morning I was picking up toys off the floor and the dishwasher needed to be unloaded. There was another pile of laundry waiting for me, and maybe your life looks similar. You know, it seems like there's always another chore, another responsibility, another thing that's demanding your attention. And if we're honest, it's easy to think that, gosh, will this ever end? But then I stopped and asked myself, why do these things even exist? Well, the toys are there because I have a beautiful daughter. The dishes are there because my family got to share another meal together. The laundry's there because God has faithfully provided clothes for us to wear. None of those things exist on their own. Every inconvenience is connected to a blessing. And it made me wonder, how many blessings have I stopped seeing because I'm blinded by the inconvenience? I think this happens more than we realize. We ask God for opportunities and then wish life wasn't so busy. We'll pray to have influence, but then we'll be frustrated when people need us. We ask God to bless us with things, and then we complain about the responsibility that blessing brings. Somewhere along the way, answered prayers become ordinary, and ordinary things become easy to complain about. A thought that crossed my mind was imagining myself walking into a perfectly clean house. There's no toys, no dishes, no laundry. Everything is exactly where it belongs. And if I'm honest, that sounds pretty great. But then I imagine it's that clean because the season of life that created the mess is gone. The family dinners don't happen anymore. The laughter that once filled the house became a memory. Suddenly the mess doesn't seem like a problem anymore, but the absence does. It's amazing how often we'll spend our days wishing away the very seasons that we'll someday wish we could experience one more time. And I think that's because we've forgotten something. Time has a way of making miracles feel normal. What once left us speechless eventually became expected. The first paycheck we got felt good, and now it's just a job that we don't like getting up for. The first home that you buy, there's this excitement that you get, and then eventually you return to that baseline happiness. At one point you were extremely excited and couldn't believe that you had those things in your life, but now they're just a part of every day. And I think that's one of the greatest dangers in the Christian life. It's not that God stops being good, it's that we stop noticing His goodness. We lose our sense of wonder. We become so familiar with God's gifts that we stop seeing them as gifts. People rarely drift because God changes. We drift because we change and forget. And I think that's where stewardship comes in. The Bible doesn't just teach us to be thankful for God's gift, it teaches us to be faithful with them. Jesus said, "From everyone who has been given much, much will be demanded." And for years I read that verse and all I heard was the responsibility, what was demanded, the pressure. But lately I've started hearing something different. If God is asking something of you, it's because He's already trusted something to you. And that's what stewardship is all about. The responsibility isn't the gift, it points to the gift. The responsibility is simply the evidence that you've been trusted with something worth caring for. And maybe that's why marriage requires sacrifice. Maybe that's why parenting is so exhausting, and maybe that's why meaningful work can be so difficult. The things that ask the most from us are often the things that matter the most. So before you complain today, pause. Take one more look at whatever it is that's frustrating you, and then ask yourself one simple question. What blessing does this responsibility point to? Maybe the thing you've been calling a burden has quietly been reminding you of God's faithfulness. Don't become so familiar with God's gifts that you stop seeing them. Steward this season well, because one day today's ordinary moments will become tomorrow's memory, and you'll be grateful you didn't spend them wishing them away.